Hi there, time for podcast 93 from Football-Oranje, your home of Dutch football. I'm Michael Statham and I'm joined by Football-Oranje founder Mike Bell. We're going to be talking about quite a few things today, as usual, on our Dutch football podcast. And you can listen to this on YouTube, SoundCloud or iTunes. Wherever you're listening, drop us a like and leave us some comments about what you're thinking about what we talk about today. What do you think about PSV being winter champion? They're top of the table going in at Christmas. Ajax second, final third. We'll be discussing each of those teams. Louis van Gaal has come out and said that Netherlands, he believes, can win the World Cup at the end of 2022. He also drops a hint about the potential formation that he might play. And yes, it is a different one to 4-3-3. And lots more to talk about with the Eredivisie too. Mike, how are you doing? And have you been enjoying the Eredivisie lately?
Yeah, I'm all good, and I think that the Eredivisie going into the new year, there's quite a lot that still has to be decided. I think a lot of people might have expected that Ajax would run away with the title, but we're actually got a title race going into 2022, and even at the bottom, it's close. There could be a couple of shock teams going down, and there's managerial changes left, right, and centre at the moment. So, yeah, it's shaping up to be a big 2022, and at the end of it, we've got the World Cup, and it has been interesting to see what Van Gaal said today and going forward. So, yeah, I think that we've got a big title race in our hands. We've got an interesting January transfer window. A number of Dutch players could be on the move, and then we've got the World Cup to cap it all off. So, yeah, I'm excited about next year.
And of course, Dutch teams in Europe, with all five still competing in European competition. Four in the Europa Conference League, which I've enjoyed as a competition from a Dutch football perspective anyway. And I think that has been the saving grace of teams staying in Europe and competing at a good level. I'm surprised that you haven't gone with a PSV shirt today, considering your prediction of PSV winning the title is on track at the moment against what belief of many people, including myself. I've gone with an RZ one today. It's one of the only few I own that are Dutch football t-shirts. Why are PSV top of them, Mike? Because when I look at it, I see that they've scored a lot of late goals, and that is the reason why they're top of the table. I mean, it's obvious. They've scored goals and they've won games, though it feels a little false, in my opinion. They've not had their best players fit for long periods, but Schmidt's tactics of swapping players after an hour or after 70 or 80 minutes in most games has worked because top of the table and they're still going late into games and scoring goals. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I think that what you have to say about the biggest strength for this PSV side is that they don't give up going in late into games. Like a lot of the goals come in the last 10 minutes, and that is testament to the players keep fighting and the substitutions that are getting made. I mean, the past month we've seen Maxi Romero come back into the side, and he's come up trumps a couple of times late in games. And I think that you can say that PSV haven't been the best team this season, but at the moment they're probably the most reliable one because they've not been dropping silly points against teams that they should be beating at home. At home, they're beating the teams that you expect them to, whereas Ajax are prone to a clanger here and there, and that's something that Ten Hag needs to sort out going into the new year, because if it continues in the same vein, PSV can win the title, but I think that what PSV need to do in the new year, if they are going to win it, is they need to beat the big teams. And are they capable of beating Feyenoord and Ajax when they come up against them next year? That'll be the big testament. And, I can't see PSV being very active in the transfer market, so I think they'll be looking to try and get Zahavi and Madueke back and go full strength for the second half of the season. Whereas Ajax, I think, will strengthen the positions that they're weakest at, which is a backup striker. Brian Brobby's basically in now, according to all reports. It's done. And then we'll see if they can get Bergwijn, which seems a lot tougher now that he actually played a game for Tottenham and actually did well. So we'll see if that comes off. But I think Ajax will strengthen in January, whereas I'm not sure PSV are going to do anything. Whereas you'd probably say that there's still question marks over the goalkeeper.
Yeah, Joel Drummel's let in a lot of goals. He has the lowest XG save percentage in the league. Lars Unnerstall actually has the highest, who they got rid of to Twente in the summer. And looking at their fixtures, we said about how those games get into big teams will be vital. You are right, because Schmidt hasn't got that right so far with PSV. And even when he plays against good teams in Europe too, teams who are of the level of Ajax, Monaco, Real Sociedad, it hasn't gone that well, really, has it? And I'm looking at the fixtures. They've got Ajax at the end of January, RZ at the start of February, Vitesse also after RZ. They play Feyenoord in May, one of their last fixtures of the season. But Ajax, RZ, and Vitesse all in a row. That could be so important for their season. We're looking at them being top now. Will they be in mid-February? That's where I think they might lose out, because Schmidt has yet to prove to his critics that he can win those big games. But I have to say, if he can get Cody Gakpo fit, playing every single game, which he has just started to do in this winter period. Noni Madueke hasn't been on his top form this season, but if he can get back fit and back to his best, they've got tons of goals in their side. And even if it's not the best defensively, they're going to outscore their opponents.
Yeah, I think that what we've seen is, Zahavi's been injured and Madueke has been injured out, but the players that have come in for them have stepped up. Bruma, who looked like a lost cause in the summer, has come in. Ritsu Doan as well. He's done a job for them, and we're not seeing the best of him yet. But Carlos Vinicius has stepped in with a couple of goals, and I think that what Schmidt's done is he's created the right balance in the team. You've seen Gutierrez come into midfield. They signed Davy Proper in the summer, and he's done absolutely nothing so far. He's had some issues with injuries, but he seems to be backup for the backup at the moment. And even Marco van Ginkel can't get back into the side, because it seems that Sangare and Gutierrez are now the preferred choice in the midfield, and they've been doing well since they've started that partnership. And they do have the players to win the title. Mario Götze, not even discussed him yet. He's not having the greatest of seasons, but he's a top quality player that, when it comes to those big games, can make a difference. And if they come up against Ajax and Ajax aren't at their best, PSV can beat them. And it's the same way, they should be going into games against AZ and Vitesse to win those games. It's just the ones Feyenoord are the team. It could come down to the fact that they've got to beat them in May. And it seems that Feyenoord are a tricky team for PSV at the moment. And I can even see Feyenoord strengthening in January if they do get Joey Veerman in. So they could make a late push, because I never expected Feyenoord to be still in with a shout, but they are definitely. I think Slot's done a great job there. So right now it's a three horse race. PSV are winning at the moment, but they need to keep up their trajectory, get the players fit, and Schmidt needs to get his tactics right. If they do that, then who knows? They could be the team that lifts the title, because Ajax are in the Champions League. They could get distracted by that. I think if you offered Schmidt either the Conference League or the Eredivisie, he's got to take the Eredivisie every single time. So they might prioritise that, whereas Ajax are looking to make the Champions League quarterfinals, last four. That might prove a bit of a distraction going forward as well.
Which it might not be if Ajax are not top of the table by the time they have to play Benfica. I want to talk about Feyenoord too. You mentioned Slot. Yeah, fantastic. I think he has proven me wrong, and he's also shown that he's taken Feyenoord already from being this team that nearly got knocked out by a Kosovan team in July that were so awful to watch. I remember this time a year ago in our podcast, we slated Feyenoord, and I actually remember the podcast was called Feyenoord in Crisis ? Because it felt like they were just so dreadful, and they were going stale again, having already gone through a few changes a couple of years back. And under Advocat, he was getting a few results, but the football was boring. His style was sit back, wait for the mistakes of the opponent. And Slot is just taking initiative, and he's changed it all so much. The fact that they're only 3 points behind PSV, it shows that how good a job they're doing. They're scoring goals for fun. I want to talk about a few of those players that are scoring goals for fun in a moment. Yeah, I think that if PSV and Feyenoord can keep pushing Ajax, we've got a great title race. But they've definitely gone above expectations, haven't they, Feyenoord? Yeah,
I think that it's night and day to what it was last season under Advocat. I mean, Advocat, that was just terrible. I mean, I think Feyenoord fans hated him by the end of it, because The football was terrible. He wasn't giving youngsters a chance. They weren't really going anywhere, and everything's just been turned around by Arne Slot. You've got to say that they're scoring goals. He's got the best out of the players in midfield. Kökçü's coming into his best form, and there's youngsters coming through as well and getting a chance. There's on the bench recently. There's been quite a few young talents given an opportunity, even in the Conference League game. They've given youngsters a chance that are going to be there in the next couple of years as regulars. And I think that the signings they made in the summer were smart. I think Dessers has proved to be a great signing off the bench. Gus Till's got 10 goals in the league. He's been a great signing on loan, and the ones that have come in for the defence, Pedersen, Trauner, all been above expectations of what I had for Feyenoord. So I think that recruitment-wise, Arneson's done a good job, and if they can do that in January, if they can bring in Joey Veerman, which is the big rumour, then I think that strengthens them going into the second half of the season because it provides competition. And even if they brought in Veerman, you could say that they could afford to lose Kökçü because they have someone that's as good or better coming in. So yeah, I think that Feyenoord fans can be definitely satisfied with what's happened so far in the season. And you even say that there's more to come as well, because we've not seen the best of Reece Nelson or Johan Bakash since they've come back. So there's still more they can get out of this side. And if they can push that a little bit further, then they can challenge the top two.
Let's talk about Orkun Kökçü. I think if he was Dutch, we'd be talking about him even more, which is a sad, I suppose. But in the Eredivisie, you have to think that he has improved this season. He has a great pass percentage, I think it is. He's great on the ball, what he does off it. He's not known for scoring goals, but I know Feyenoord fans have been very happy with him this season so far. There are also a few that do criticise his lack of involvement around the box. Being a final midfielder, you'd think that he'd add a bit in that respect. What are your views on Kökçü?
Yeah, I think he's been a player that we've seen linked to bigger clubs. I think it was Arsenal a couple of years ago that were heavily linked. I think Leicester have been heavily linked, and obviously I've never really been that impressed with him over the past couple of years. But this season, I think he's stepped up his game. I think he does the easy stuff very well, where he gets the ball, he plays it forward. He doesn't lose it very often. He makes the right choices in midfield, and that's a big benefit because a lot of players don't do that. And I think he's not as good as Frankie de Jong, but he's Feyenoord's Frankie de Jong at the moment, where he's picking up the ball, he's playing it forward, he's getting Feyenoord moving forward, he's doing the dirty work in the midfield. And yes, he doesn't score enough goals, but that's not really part of his game at the moment. So I think that if Feyenoord want to raise money, and we've talked before about the main reason that their struggles are is because a lot of the players leave on a free and they don't do contract situations well, and they don't get the money for the players that they bring through. Coach is the one that they're looking at now to say he could bring in some money either in January or in the summer. He could go for 15 million, especially if he keeps playing well for Turkey. Then you never know. It is a shame that he doesn't represent the Netherlands anymore. I think with midfield options, you want as many as possible for Netherlands. But I think he is a player that's definitely stepping up his game. He's still very young, and I think he will make a move eventually to a top league, either in January or the summer. And I can see him excelling. He's just a player that every single side wants because he doesn't lose the ball. And yeah, I think that Feyenoord fans are right to have praised him for the work he's been doing in the past few months, because he has been a key reason why Feyenoord is still in the title race.
Absolutely. And I think he was a consideration when it came to my Eredivisie team of the season so far. I put it up on my Twitter, and I also put it up on the Football-Oranje website. Go and check it out, because I give explanations to why I've chosen some of these players. But I want to get my team up, Mike, and I want to hear your thoughts on it and what you would change. Because, of course, with these teams, there's always disagreements. No one's ever perfectly right. But I did sit there for a while thinking, like, who else could I fit in, and reasons why I picked one player over another. In the end, I went with Unestal as a goalkeeper from Twente, Pedersen from Feyenoord at right back, Timber and Martinez, the Ajax centre-back combination, and at left back I've gone with Vitek from Vitesse. Then midfield I went with Sangare, PSV's best player easily. Tronstad from Vitesse was my sort of left field choice for the team. and Hustil as a number 10 from Feyenoord. And then I've gone with Ajax's Tadic and RZ's Carlson on the wings and Brian Linson as the main striker from Feyenoord. I say that the strikers were the hardest thing to pick because you had Linson, Openda, Allaire all scoring in double figures this season as strikers. But I think Linson has been one of the poster boys for Arne Slot and how he's changed the team into this side that can press really high. And Linson's a big part of that. He's not even a striker by trade. He's played there for the last couple of years. But this season, he's taken it to another level with what he's done. That's why I've chosen him as a striker. But yeah, any disagreements there, Mike?
I mean, I think it's a good side, and I think you're right in most of the section. I guess things like this and teams like these, they're always based on personal preference and players that you like and players that, you could say that Ajax fans will come in and say, where's Alvarez, where's Haller, where's Anthony?
As one did.
I mean, I'm not shocked, but they can't just have the Ajax team in there just because Ajax play the best football. You need to have a good mix-up, and I think that you're right in most of your selections. I think that Wittek's had a great season for Vitesse in the Eredivisie and in Europe. I think you say Pedersen's had a strong campaign so far for Feyenoord. I think you got Mizraoui, who could have been in there, but Mizraoui's had some injury issues as well, so he hasn't really played that much. Which is the same with Gakpo. Gakpo, when he does play, he's excellent. So he might have crept into my team, but he has had his injury issues, and you can't really argue that Carlson's been the main man for AZ recently. You've got Winston scoring left, right, and centre, which is a far cry from last year when he was ridiculed by most, including me, for being a player that can't score any goals. So I think he deserves to be there. I think if you look at the midfield, Sangari's has been PSV's top player. I think Tronstad's had a good season. I can make an argument for Joey Veerman. I know Heerenveen haven't been at their best, but I think he is still being their top player, and he shines week in, week out, even if his teammates don't. And the stats that he's putting up going forward and defensively for a midfielder are excellent based on tackling and key passes created, chances created. It's not his fault that his teammates are messing up in front of goal, because if they had more clinical players, then Joey Veerman would be looking at double figures for assists. So I think what he's been doing for Heerenveen has been excellent, and that's why he will move in January, I suspect, to either Feyenoord or a club abroad, because he needs to now show himself in a better team, because he can't just keep being the best player for Heerenveen, because it's not going to get him to that next level and that Netherlands call-up that I think that he'll eventually get once he does move to top side. I think if he went to Feyenoord in January, I think if he does replace Kökçü, he gets called up for Netherlands within 2 to 3 months. That's what I would say.
Yeah, let's talk about the Netherlands. Let's talk about what Louis van Gaal's got to consider. He mentioned about a formation change potentially. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But you said Joey Veerman. Realistically, can he really get into a Netherlands selection? I know you put a poll up on Twitter, Mike, and I think it was something like 60% said yes. So if Veerman gets a move in January and plays well in 2022, he would get a Netherlands call-up playing for a team like Feyenoord. Do you really think that might happen? I mean, I'm kind of toying with the idea, thinking he might get in the squad. He's someone who's shown great quality for Heerenveen, but can he step it up if he was with a top side? You've got him to consider. I guess the only other person I could look at the moment who might get a call up, just looking at the Eredivisie team this season so far, Brian Linson, but he's so late in his career. I don't think there's a place for him. I think he's just a level of quality below. But that's, is that where Joe Veerman sits as well? Or is he someone who has got the potential to stretch himself further?
I think he definitely has the potential to stretch himself further. And I do think that as soon as he gets to a top club, he will shine. We've seen it before with Hakim Ziyech. He went from Heerenveen to Twente, stepped up his game, went to Ajax, and now he's at Chelsea and he's playing Champions League, and he's considered, when he's playing well, one of the best midfielders in the world if he's on form. So I think Veerman, the next move for him is crucial. I didn't like in the summer when he was being linked to Verona. I don't think that would have been the right move for him. I know he wanted it, because you wanted to be there in Verona. But I think if he went to Feyenoord, his career trajectory would go higher, because what he's doing in a Heerenveen side that lacks quality going forward, if you have better strikers and better wingers, the balls that he's putting in, the chances he's creating, you'll see his figures double. And I think if you're looking at the players that are getting into the Netherlands squad,
Klaassen.
you can say that Klaassen, Gravenberg, who, yes, he's very young and talented, but he's very, very ridiculed by Ajax fans at the moment for the way he's playing. But he
Which
seems
is
to still
sad
get
because he's only 19 years old, isn't he?
Yeah. And Gus Till, as soon as he starts scoring goals for Feyenoord, he's in the Netherlands squad. So I think if you look at those players getting call-ups, Wijnaldum's not playing very well. Darun and Koop Miners, they seem to be switching in and out of Atlanta's midfield. One plays 1 week, one plays the other week. There's room in that midfield for somebody that can do a defensive job and create chances, and I think that's what Joey Veerman is. And if he can do the job for Feyenoord, yes, he will get a call-up, and I think that taking his game to the next level is exactly what he needs to do to get that. And I hope he does move in January. No offense to Heerenveen, but it is a club that's struggling at the moment to challenge for Europe, and it's a club it's a mid-table club in Eredivisie right now, and they have mid-table players. So he needs to move, and I think that will happen in January. I hope it does, because I want to see him in a stronger side and see what he can do, because he is the player in Eredivisie that I look at outside the top 3 or 4 that think that he does have a chance of being something special, and we just need to see him get that chance.
I look forward to seeing him in a shirt for Netherlands, and can he get some minutes? Can he impress? I'd like to see him move. I think that Heerenveen know now that it's the time to sell. They're going to be mid-table this season. They're not going to be finishing in the top 4 or 5, which I think they had ambition to do with a player like Veerman. But he actually has just been keeping them out of relegation trouble, I'd suggest. I think I'd be open to that idea. We're seeing Hostil in an Netherlands shirt, and you can't argue with that because he's scored so many goals, and that's why I've chosen my team of the season so far. Let's go on to what Louis van Gaal said. He said that he believes the Netherlands can win the World Cup. I think that he would say that. I think a lot of managers that are in the World Cup would also say something like that. But it was also fascinating to hear him talk about himself. Van Gaal saying that, well, you can call it arrogance, but it is also the fact that he does probably have really good abilities when it comes to how he deals with players, how he might see the game. And I think he has dropped a hint as to a formation change. The 4-3-3 is what we normally expect for the Netherlands. He's gone back to that since Frank de Boer left. But he has said since that he would be open to playing essentially 5 at the back again. But he wants to call it a 1-3-4-1-2 in typical Louis van Gaal fashion, including the goalkeeper, in case you haven't spotted it. And wing backs. What do you think about that, Mike? Are we going to be going back to that again? It did bring some success for De Boer at the end of the day, didn't it? Yeah,
I think that you've got to trust him, because he's come in, he's got us to the World Cup, and what he did in 2014 as well. That you have to go back to that 2014 squad, and what people remember is that they were put in a group with, I seem to forget, they were put in a group with Spain and Chile, and everyone running up to that tournament was saying Netherlands are going to get knocked out, Spain are going to beat them, Chile are going to beat them, and they're going to finish 3rd in that group. And that's not what happened. Van Gaal beat Spain, beat Chile, and went to 3rd place. And you're a Mascherano. Mascherano? Yeah, that's his name. Leg away from being in the final. So I trust Van Gaal that he knows what he's doing. I think that playing 5 at the back, a lot of fans will see it as defensive, but when you've got players that Netherlands have and the strengths that they do have on the sort of wing back positions, you saw what Dumfries could do at the Euros. He has started to score goals for Inter. I think that playing him as right wing back is smart. And even I think in an interview today, he's hinted that Danjuma could be the left wing back, which I think would be very attacking, but very interesting, because if you've got 3 central defenders who are strong and you're looking for the left wing back to push forward, is that going to be Daley Blind with his lack of pace, probably not. Malacia could do a job, Van Gaal could do a job, but somebody like Danjuma in there could also be very, very interesting in going forward. If you've got Danjuma and Dumfries running into support, say Memphis and Gakpo, that is a potent attack. And I think that having options is exactly what Van Gaal wants. The team can play 4-3-3, we've seen it, but he needs that option of being able to switch it up. And if in the games that are to come next year, maybe the Nations League games, he might experiment and go 5 at the back. I'd quite like to see it against Belgium, maybe one of the tougher nations that we've faced recently. Maybe trial it with wing backs and see how they get on. And I think that it could be a success with the players that he has at his disposal.
I think it did bring success with Dumfries coming from the right side, getting forward into the box. I think the left was more tricky because Van Aanholt ended up playing a play of his abilities. It's a little strange. And Wijndal didn't take his chance. He didn't adjust to the level, which was sad because that position could have been his. And then you're thinking, could it be somebody else? And Danjuma, on the face of it, sounds really weird. But he did play Dirk Kuyt at right wing back, and it worked. So you got to trust him, like you said. I'd like to see it. Let's give it a go. If anyone's listening to this thinking they have got an idea too, do drop it in the comments. It is interesting to hear what other people think about how 11s could set up. It's a game of opinions. And Van Gaal is doing an out there choice himself. So what ideas has everybody else got? I think Danjuma on the left would obviously be an attacking threat. I think if you play Daley Blind at left centre back, could be interesting. You've got De Vrij, De Ligt, and Van Dijk. We talked about it a lot. How they're 3 excellent centre backs. It is a way of fitting them into the team. But you've got Daley Blind to also consider then in that position. Someone who's excellent on the ball. I think the midfield then is up for debate. Who goes next to Frenkie de Jong? And there's plenty of people that could do that. I still think, though, that Wijnaldum will never be dropped from the side. Someone who does deserve his place on his day, but does seem to score a lot of goals in qualifiers and not really excel against those top opponents. He did for a time to Koeman, but has fallen back under the radar again, and someone's gone a little bit missing. But that's just my view on that. I think, is any work that you would do if you were Louis van Gaal, like in 2022? You've only got the Nations League games really to tinker with your team.
Yeah, so he needs to try his formation out. I think the Nations League games do give him an opportunity to do that because they are facing Belgium. You expect them to beat Poland, and you probably expect them to beat Wales as well. They beat Poland home and away last time in the Nations League, so I'd expect Netherlands to not finish bottom of that group and get relegated. So I think it is a perfect opportunity to experiment with some formations and some players. What we need to see is what Wijnaldum's doing by that point. He's not playing regularly for PSG at the moment. Is he going to leave the club in January? Then what happens then? If he's a bench player, he's not playing at all. I still think you're right. He seems to be a player that's just undroppable for Van Gaal, like Daley Blind is. But he'll get to a stage where he does have to look at other options. And one of the other options that I'd like to see him experiment with is Berghuis as an attacking midfielder, because it's worked well for Ajax. And if he's going to change the formation to not have wingers and rather have wing backs, Berghuis is a number 10 instead of Klaassen needs to be tried and tested because he's excelling at Ajax. He's keeping Klaassen out of that side.
Yeah.
So why not give it a go? So I want to see that in the Nations League games. And if he's going to play with 2 through the middle, I think it would have to be Memphis and Gakpo for pace. But I'm also interested to see what Bergwijn can do going forward now, because during the last round of games, he was great, and his goals were the reason that Netherlands are going to the World Cup right now. So yeah, I think Van Gaal does have the room to experiment. I don't think he has a big list of players that can be called up for the first time. I think the squad is still pretty small, and I think he will keep it pretty small. I don't see, because he said during the last round of games he didn't really want to call up Cillison because he wanted it to be the same group, the same players meeting week in, week out so they get along. But unless there's somebody that really, really improves it, for instance, if Joey Veerman does go to Feyenoord and take up his game, he might be another chance, but I can't see him making any other big calls to bring in new faces. So I think he needs to experiment with the players he does have, and Berghuis is the one that seems to be striking that he does need to be tried at that number 10 position.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. Berghuis behind Memphis, another striker, wing backs coming forward. It sounds good again, going back to 5 at the back when we wanted to see rid of it for so long. And Dumfries is doing great with Inter Milan now. Hasn't he scored? What do you know better than me, Mike? Before I get it wrong, Dumfries has scored some goals for Inter Milan.
Yeah, 3 goals in his last 4 games.
That's it.
Yeah, so he's definitely taken his game to the next level. Well, he took some time to adapt. I think some Inter fans got on his back for some mistakes. I think he gave away a penalty in one game, and I think all the people because Dumfries is a player that divides opinion. There's a lot of people that do not rate him at all for his defensive ability, which is fair. But going forward, he's a threat, and he's now starting to really take ownership of that right back slot into Milan, and it's great to see.
Yeah, that's good news. And that's why you can see Van Gaal being tempted to play a system like that. I think it'd be great to finish the podcast by talking about some more Eredivisie for those that enjoy talking about the whole Eredivisie table rather than just the top. And I want to talk about Cambuur, NEC, Nijmegen and Go Ahead Eagles, the 3 promoted sides, all sitting neatly in mid-table when so many wouldn't have expected that. Henk de Jong has had some problems, so Pascal Bossard has taken temporary charge of the team. Maya's done a great job at NEC, and Go Ahead, Kees van Wonderen has said that he's leaving at the end of the season, but again, great job. I think they've all done it in their own different ways, though. Cambuur have been quite attacking, haven't they? Either having to win or lose a game. They've only drawn 1 game all season. Go Ahead have been very defensively resolute, and NEC are sort of balanced in between, but able to win games against mid-table opponents, it seems. So yeah, like the three sides of, I think there will be mid-table at the end of the season too. They've just come up and done a fantastic job.
Yeah, I think they all deserve praise for. It's very rare that you'd see 3 promoted clubs come up and not one of them be in the bottom 3. I don't have any stats on that. I couldn't tell you if it's ever happened before, but you definitely don't see it very often. And the Eredivisie, there's usually one that comes up and is basically the whipping boy of the league, and it's been none of this year. So I think it's great. I think I tipped NEC to be one of the surprise teams of the season before it. I think that just the young players that they do have, and they brought in experience as well. I think somebody like Tavzan, he took some time. He wasn't getting games at the start of the season, but now he's on fire. He's proven his quality on the wing, and they seem to just have a strong defensive unit. Kaz Odental's a great young defender. They've got good wing backs. They've got good midfield with Lasse Schöne in there. Dirk Proper coming through. They've got in the attack. They've got Okita and Tavzan. I think all round, it's just a strong side that will finish mid-table safely. And with Cambuur, as you said, they seem to be going all gun-ho, and it works against the teams that are around them because they seem to be able to pick up wins against the ones that are also in the bottom half of the table. And
they've won more than they've lost.
Yeah, so they're going to be an outside shout for Europe this year, which is crazy considering that they came up top. Yes, they hammered everyone in the 2nd division last year, but then they sold their best player. So I think they're being great. And yes, Kees van Wonderen, he is leaving Go Ahead, and I think he's got a job lined up. I think I'll be very, very surprised if he isn't Groningen manager next year, considering that they're looking for one, and he's just decided he's leaving. His defensive qualities are exactly kind of what Danny Boyce had at the start.
Have you just figured that out? Have you figured out the $1 million question? That's a great spot.
Yeah, so he's nailed on, basically. I might be wrong, but I think the timing of it, them announcing that Boyce is leaving, then Van Wonderen announcing he's leaving, Go Ahead Eagles, I think it marries up. And I think for the coaches that they could attract, he is the best one available for them. So yeah, I'll not be surprised if that's announced in the next that he's gone there. But yeah, Groningen is a step up for Van Wanderen, and it'll be interesting to see what he can do there next year. I think at the bottom of the table, I think if we want to discuss the teams that are there, I think PEC's are done, dusted, see you later. They're not going to pick up any wins in the second half of the season. But the team that have really, really disappointed me this year have been Sparta Rotterdam. And considering that Henk Fraser did such a good job with them before, he just doesn't seem to be able to inspire them this year. And
yeah, they're lacking a bit of inspiration, aren't they? They've still got that defensive resoluteness about them in a way, but they're just not scoring any goals.
They're not, and you think that they've got Leonard Ty, who's over the past few years has been a reliable scorer in Eredivisie. They've got Omega who's coming through, who looks like a good prospect, but they aren't scoring goals. And even when you thought that they played RKC on Wednesday, they had a chance to win that, you left both Ty and Omega on the bench, went with Engels through the middle.
Yeah.
It just didn't work. I know that today they've been linked to a move for Damal of Utrecht, I think by Football International, saying that they want to get him in because goals are the big problem, that they need to find a goal scorer or they're going to be bottom three. I think right now you've got to say the bottom three is PEC are down, Fortuna Sittard are in big trouble, and then it's between Sparta and RKC for me.
Though Villa have dropped like a stone. They've lost 8 in a row and they're only just above the relegation zone now. Surely now they come into the equation too. I can't believe that they're in this position. I thought they'd be like mid-table or just below that. But the way they've just dropped down the table.
Yeah, I would say it's very worrying for them, but I do think they have the players that can get them out of it. I think they've got enough there to eventually turn it around, whether it's going to be a case of, I don't think they'll change the manager because I think that Fregren will be given time to sort it, and maybe they'll make a couple of signings in January, but it is very worrying for them, especially after what happened last season as well, where they flirted with relegation. But I think that there's 4 teams that are in big trouble right now. I think you can pretty much write off PEC Zwolle right now, and even they knew that. I mean, they sacked their coach and they brought in a head coach that has no experience, so I think they knew that this season is basically right off, and they're already starting to plan for next year in the second division. But I think it's going to be tight. Even you look at the table, you still say that Heracles are in there. Groningen aren't out of it, and they're only 6 points above it, but I think that they should be enough. And then you got Go Ahead Eagles on 21 points, 8 points above the relegation zone. I think they'll be fine. But yeah, if I was a Fortuna fan or an RKC fan, I'd be thinking that they'll probably get dragged into the bottom 3 by end of the season. It'll be between RKC and Fortuna to finish 17th, I think.
I think with Fortuna, they've not changed much from last season, really. The coach is the same, Ulte, and I think that at some point they'll win a few games, and that'll just get them out of trouble. But it hasn't happened yet, still. But they did so well last season that something's going to click again. But then you could say something about Sparta. So something's got to give, I think. I think that we won't see them struggling the way they are for so long. I think one of the teams will pull away, but which one will it be? Will it be Fraser? Will Fraser leave and somebody else comes in at Sparta? AKC, I think, will just keep chugging along the way they are because they're playing and getting points kind of as you'd expect, just above the relegation zone. But if a team can get some wins and pull away, they're the ones that are going to drop in. What was I going to finish with today? I think that actually that may well have been it today. So thanks everyone for listening in, and do drop us a like if you've enjoyed this podcast, and leave us a comment about something we've talked about today. Get involved, get in conversation with us and the people in the comments. And yeah, there's plenty more on the Football-Oranje website to come over the festive break, and also on all of our platforms. So do keep an eye out. We're not stopping necessarily. Things will be happening even if football has kind of died down. The transfer window is about to open. We'll be all over that for you. So yeah, give us a like, subscribe onto here if you are new, and have a great festive break if you celebrate Christmas, and Happy New Year to you as well. Lots more to come from Football-Oranje very soon. I think just a little shout out if you haven't checked it out yet, and you're interested, that on SoundCloud there is a full interview that I did with Billy Ashcroft, who used to play for FC Twente in the 80s. He talks about playing against the likes of Cruyff and Van Hanegem. So go and listen to what he had to say about that. He talks about lots of things in football too. It's quite a relaxed conversation, worth listening to if you fancy it. But yeah, that's it from us. Have a great new year, and we'll see you very soon.